people would be more aware of. That's a watch to earn live TV platform. Been in beta since January, and ultimately it works just like traditional TV that you would sit on your sofa and watch. So it's not like Netflix, which is a monthly subscription, and it's definitely not like YouTube or Twitch, which is user generated content which anyone can upload. This is literally TV content which, with ads that run every 12 to 15 minutes that are non-skippable, and essentially everything from live news, sports, documentaries, films, etc. Currently, we have 5 live channels. We'd be going live with another 60 in about a month, within the next month. And we are currently now sitting at about 165,000 users, and doing about 1.5 million minutes of watch time a week at the moment on the platform, and have signed a bunch of partners. So a lot of exciting stuff happening. So yeah, without going into like crazy detail, that's a little bit more about Script Network. But yeah, definitely check us out. Sign up to the beta if you haven't already.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, that sounds super exciting. Would love to dive deeper into some of those details throughout this conversation. Definitely curious on, a lot of the benefits of moving this to crypto infrastructure, whereas some of the benefits would be there too, and also content creators. Like, how are you seeing, people adopt this? So yeah, excited to dive in deeper into that. I see we have the folks from Town Square as well here, so please come on and give a brief intro about yourself, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
All right, cool. Yeah, really appreciate the invite from Pontem today for this social-fi themed Twitter space, and along with other great projects doing interesting things in the social vertical. So a little bit more about us. So my name is JC. I'm the founder and CEO of Town Square. We are essentially a social everything app natively built on Aptos, and we are also building the social stack infrastructure, essentially a behavior graph that joins on-chain and off-chain data to provide account information and also optimize like social content feed experiences and community features in the everything app that we're building. Essentially, our story was we started off building like social, like Web3 native social network apps in Solana last year, because as most of you will be, would agree to this. On the adoption front, what you ideally want to do is for the social app to be on mobile devices, available mobile devices, right? Like most of the wallets that are available on mobile today, right? So Solana last year was a really good opportunity for us because they had their mobile React Native mobile wallet adapter released to the ecosystem, right? And later this year, and also later last year and earlier this year, like I had a lot of Solana friends, including Austin, who started to build things and push the ecosystem on Aptos. So that's when we decided that Aptos would be an ecosystem where a lot of resources will be dedicated to the mobile adoption front, right? So we sort of rewrote the whole design and the underlying infrastructure and started building on Aptos earlier this year. Essentially what how our app is sort of different from all the other apps is we have something called a contextual frontend. So that simply means that we would be able to integrate any other React Native supported widgets or SDK or features from other applications like Pontem's Liquid Swap, like Martian Wallet's NFC portfolio, and also other, spanning to other like DeFi, trading protocols, etc. As long as you have a React Native widget, we'll be able to support it in-app, so users can directly use your wallet and sign a transaction in the app to access all of these trading and NFT features. So this kind of like everything concept is really interesting to Web3 audience, because in Web3, your account is inherently a wallet account. So you don't really need to silo, right? You don't silo your financial activity from your social activity in Web3, because your account has all of the existing wallet features. So for us, building like Web3 social is more about having this set of features where you're able to bridge your social life with your financial life in one singular experience. And that's essentially our thesis behind it. So we released our waitlist sign up about a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago, and now we have about 40K signups in total. And we're going to do like a couple of more product pushes before we release the MVP on mainnet at the end of this year in December. So we didn't expect the sign up to be this popular at all. 40K to us is a big number on an ecosystem like Aptos, a new ecosystem like Aptos. So it's really exciting for us, and we expect that when people actually start using it, they would not only be able to experience like Web2 level like user experience UI UX, but also like richer features that are even superior to what they have available in Web2. So that's what we want to achieve. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that thorough breakdown. Really excited to have this come onto mainnet. 40,000 users, in queue is huge. So, yeah, excited to see this come to life and seeing it all come together. Great. We also have folks from, or yeah, Script. Go ahead if you want to have some input there. If not, then yeah, we also have folks from Torum here. If you could please give a brief intro about your app and how it's connected to the SocialFi ecosystem.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation from Pontem. I'm very excited to share this stage with friends from Town Square and Script TV. Very happy to be here. So basically, Torum is a social network that is designed for cryptocurrency people. Basically, what we strive to achieve here is to make connecting cryptocurrency users and people easy, because we realize that with the current social media that is available, Web3 social media, okay, there's not, we in this space in Web3, we definitely need a dedicated social media because like it or not, in Web3, we spoke different languages, different kind of tones, different kind of geeks compared to the Web2 social media people. So my friends and I, we started up Torum back in 2018. So we bootstrapped the projects, entire development with like less than 250K. And we launched our product back in July 2021. And up to this moment, we have been fortunate and honored to be one of the home for worldwide cryptocurrency enthusiasts. We have garnered more than 230,000 people, crypto people from all around the world. What we want to create here in Torum is we want to create a home that is meant for people like you and I in this space, because in Web2 social media, the people over there, they share a different kind of interest with us. For example, we want to talk about Bitcoin, we want to talk about crypto, we want to talk about SocialFi. Essentially, having this sort of conversation in Web2 social network is a little bit difficult. It has its own barrier because the topic, the interest that we have today is very different from Web2. So we want to make it very easy for people to discover what's happening in the world of cryptocurrencies, and also make it very easy for people to connect with Web3 and also cryptocurrency enthusiasts. It doesn't matter whether you are a Bitcoiner, okay, or you might be someone who loves Ethereum. It doesn't matter what your interest is. We want to create a safe and diverse, interconnected social media platform for the cryptocurrency people to connect with one another and also engage in crypto-centric Web3 centric topics and conversations. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that intro. It's great to hear that you've been in the space for so long, and good to see the traction that you're getting. On the point of bringing people together, I think one benefit that I see of this infrastructure, crypto infrastructure, is that you don't have to be siloed, although there is silos across these different blockchains, but that could also be fixed. But you don't have to be siloed across these different social media apps. So in traditional Web 2, you have X, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear from the speakers your perspective on, some of the advantages that crypto brings. Are we going to get rid of these silos? Are these different front ends that, ultimately will allow people to still connect or bring, their followers or interactions from one social media app to the other? Yeah, kind of curious to hear people's perspectives there.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I think that's a great question. It would be great to hear what everyone else thinks, but I think what we're seeing now is kind of like the new way social is being consumed. It's like, I think over the last 10 to 15 years, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm either on Snapchat or I'm on YouTube or I'm on Twitter or I'm on Instagram, and they're all almost separate entities in themselves. And I think what crypto's doing, and obviously what blockchain technologies and done through interoperability, through ultimately being on multiple chains at once, is the ease of actually almost being, I guess, in a Web2 view of it, being on multiple different platforms at the same time. And what that's allowed is that I could actually be playing a game now in Web3 and actually still be interacting with people who are not necessarily playing the game at that time. And, it's something that we've been focusing on with Script Network, that even though we're a TV streaming network, actually, how can we connect the worlds of media, gaming, DeFi, etc.? Because essentially social is just connecting with other people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a social media per se platform, like we're used to on Web 2. So I just think it's kind of evolving now to that point that people are now going to be using multiple different assets at the same time and connecting. So maybe I could be talking to you right now and, we'll be using two different platforms. And I think that's what Web3 manages to bring through the great devs that are building and ultimately through the technology that we're building on. So yeah, that's kind of my take.
Definitely, that makes sense. Do y'all think that as these different platforms come to be, that they'll coexist with the traditional Web 2s like X, maybe X specifically Twitter, just because it's so interconnected with Twitter, with crypto. Yeah, I'll throw the question out to the Town Square Forum folks.
Yeah, would be happy
Hi.
to chip in a little bit here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just like give briefly my thoughts. I think in terms of like either user onboarding or user retention, there are like a few things that we need to bear in mind, right? One, I mean, everyone should be familiar with the example of Threads, how Meta tried to copy Twitter with Threads, and they were really successful in onboarding users with their existing social network effect, but failed massively in retaining those users for the medium to long term. Because at least, for example, I tested out within the first 2 days after it was released on the App Store, and I have so far only used it twice. Essentially checked out the friends that I have that are also signed up on Threads after the first trial. So they failed retaining the user massively, and I think the reason, and there are a lot of reasons, but I think one of the primary reasons was there was no unique selling point, so to speak. There was no wedge feature that Threads carved out in itself compared to Twitter. I think Elon Musk has been really successful in making sure that in achieving his original goal, which was that on TikTok, for example, it's a very addictive app with very addictive content recommendations. But sometimes people regret the time they spent on TikTok, whereas on Twitter, you get quality information, good content creators. So in terms of the quality time spent on between TikTok and Twitter, Twitter has been really successful in retaining users because of that, right? So it's been able to carve out its unique content space outside of TikTok, right? So, but Threads wasn't able to do that. So I think it's in terms of like onboarding and retaining users, it's really about finding out a wedge feature that you are trying to build in your app. Stepan did a really interesting experiment with their Ponzinomics of their token, where they essentially use their token as a bootstrap tool to onboard walkers, joggers, and runners to their app and making some money, like massive amounts before, but now like just a little bit of money, right? When they use the app, but so they essentially use their tokenomics as a bootstrap strategy to onboard some users for the longer term. Now they are expanding their ecosystem to the metaverse area. So I think in terms of like onboarding and retaining, you simply have to consider both how you're going to do that in the short term as well as in the long term. Like for us, what we are massively invested in is making sure that even in our MVP, we're going to have that kind of wedge feature that's going to produce some sort of a wow effect to the initial users, and very quickly follow up in the second iteration of the app, the longer retaining strategy, right? Retention features. So I think for like social, because for like social network or social media apps in Web3, it's really difficult when you have Twitter sort of dominating the social, like the Web3 social network landscape already, where if you know someone in Web3, the chances you also know them on Twitter, right? So in terms of like copying or simply migrating the social graph from Twitter, if you want to do that, you simply have to make sure that you have a retention feature into your app rather than just like copy and pasting Twitter's content. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's a fair point on Threads, that they were able to onboard a lot of users but not retain them. I'm curious whether y'all see your products as complementary or competitive to something like Twitter X. So, for example, I see that this friend tech product, you're able to log in with your X or Twitter, and then that shows you your friends on Twitter that you can subscribe to, buy shares from, etc. So yeah, kind of curious how you guys are using, or if you see them, or if maybe you see it as competitor. But yeah, I'll throw it there, and maybe Torum, you can chime in.
I don't necessarily see friend tech as a competitor because of our difference in how we approach the SocialFi concept. So with Forum, we want to build a social media platform dedicated for cryptocurrency people, whereas with friend tech, it's actually a concept that gives people KOLs, influencers to leverage on their social interactions and followers, reputation, trust, basically monetizing it. So I think it's a different kind of approach to attract people, to build that network out. And it's very speculation based because at the end of the day, I don't think it's viable and sustainable when people are paying thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just to get access to a private chat. So yeah, I don't really sit well with with how Frentech is trying to solve the cold start problem, and I do feel that um, Web3 social networks, regardless if it's Forum or Script TV or Town Square, we are definitely going to coexist with X, Facebook, the mainstream social network, because we are serving two different market at the end of the day. I mean, because with Potem, we are targeting and building the platform for cryptocurrency people, Web3 enthusiasts. So there's gonna be a lot of customizable features that is built for this industry, for people like you and I. But for let's take X as an example. They are building a place for people to get involved in conversations and also get all the hot topics, all the hot conversation across the world, get people involved and know what's happening around the world. So you see, the purpose of the social networks itself sets the difference between Web3 social fi app and also the Web2 social networks. So I think that this is a very clear differentiation in terms of our product positionings and also how we view the market and tackled the market base as of now. And I would like to also extend the inputs from Town Square just now. I think that the genius about the rationale behind the launch of Threads is it basically leveraged on the social graph of Instagram to bootstrap. Now that is something totally unique and really a first of a kind of bootstrapping method because with every social app, okay, we need to build the social graph out by ourselves from A to Z. It doesn't matter if you are Facebook or X, okay. If we go back to the early days, they need to build that network out, okay, and they do it with all sorts of different kind of way. But with Threads, okay, it's a really interesting experiment because it bootstrap on the network of Instagram that is readily available already. And I do feel that, and I do resonate with what Town Square said about um, their failures. Because, and I want to expand a little bit on that. And a few more other factors that I see, contributing to their failures. Because you can replicate network, but replicate the interactions in there. Because when Thread launched, there's not really there's a lot of mass onboarding people onto the platform itself. But let's think about it. Our friends or families are not really on there. So what we see here in Threads is you can scale and build that network out really super fast by replicating it. But if there is no close, authentic engagement, interactions, connections between the people inside that network, then that network is not really strong. Although it's big, but it's definitely not strong. And that is what happened with Threads right now, where we see these networks, okay, across the platform. It's slowly crumbling. Okay, but I think that is a very interesting thing, and it does provide some insights to socialify entrepreneurs and also product managers. No matter if we are in a Web2 or Web3 space, it gives us the lesson that replicating networks is definitely not the way of how a social product, achieve product market fit. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a fair point on friend tech. It doesn't seem super sustainable. I joke that I couldn't afford any friends on friend tech, but on Threads as well. Yeah, we're seeing that unless you actually have a good value proposition, as Town Square was saying, people can adopt it and you can bootstrap that with Instagram. But if people aren't actually using the app to post, kind of like the supply of content isn't there. And yeah, I'm wondering whether you see, so not the new Web3 apps coming out, but the traditional ones like Twitter or X, do you see those as competitive or as complementary. Like it seems like this bootstrapping mechanism for the social network from X is being used by some of these. So just kind of curious how y'all are thinking about it. And yeah, Town Square, feel free to chime in also on previous combos. But yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yes, some really interesting like discussion points to touch on here. I mean, Friendtech, I've heard a lot of back and forth, pros and cons that people have raised about this, H5 app that's not even available on like on the mobile app stores, but people are still using it, and they sometimes they find their onboardings quite friction, being like having a lot of friction, but they still use it because all of their friends are using it. Like one particularly strong opinion I heard about Friends Tag after his like initial hype was from the Lens community. So by the way, I'm embedded in a lot of these like different like social communities like on Ethereum or on EVM ecosystem. So like Lens communities had very strong opinions about Friendtech, when it was launched initially, and that one of the opinions was pretty much what Torren was saying earlier. That is not trying to build an innovative Web3 social application, but rather simply a tool to monetize your social network, and people are going to bleed when the dump happens, right? So I've heard that. I think coming from Lens, where you already seeing apps like Orbs and Favor, having some like 100K monthly active users. That's kind of fair because they are massively innovative on the social graph on the database level, whereas you don't see that kind of like infrastructural innovation in the example of Friendstech. Whereas more so Friendstech is innovating on the business model side of things, with its protocol fees, right? So I think that's really fair criticism from the Lens community. But on the other hand, I think Friendtech has done a really good job utilizing Twitter's social graph, essentially doing a thing, doing something that Threads wasn't able to do. Like Threads, like Torm was saying, Threads utilized the social graph from Facebook, and Friendtech utilized the social graph from Twitter, but Threads failed in retaining users. Whereas if you look at the top 100 influencers on top 100 users on Friendtech, from 2 months ago they're still here now, right? And their shares haven't really, at least in the short term, been dumped by their inner circles. And I've heard many theories about why that hasn't happened, because we did have a similar like Wumble, an app called Wumble on Solana a couple of years ago, where there were like social tokens from every user, and Multicoin was actually interested in that app. But a couple of months later, the dump happened, and the friends of friends bled massively because of the dump. So that app was immediately sunset because of that dump, like that hurting their inner circle of friends, right? So I think what Friendtech is experiencing is essentially their biggest enemy is time, right? If they are able to make sure that these inner circle of friends do not dump their shares, the keys, in the short term, and inventing some sort of a tokenomic scheme to mitigate the loss of these investors, these like key holders, in the event that the dump happens, then they would have a chance in retaining those users. Most of my friends that have invested in other friends' keys are actually very close to that person. So that kind of like inner circle, like the person in real life, you see them in real life, you talk to them in real life. This kind of like in-person knowledge, in-person social relationship with the users on Friendstech, I think is kind of not really existent on Twitter, right? Most of the followers and following users that you have on Twitter, you don't really know them, but on Friendtech, it's a different story because it's a more niche group of users in Web3. So I think essentially Frentech team is engaged in the race of time. So it's very plausible that the dump is going to happen. But until then, I think if I were them, I would be massively focused on designing tokenomics scheme that prevent massive user loss of value in case when the dump happens, right? But going back to the first story, yeah, what Frentech has been able to achieve is to retain these users, right? Whereas the threads that haven't been able to do that because they are not complementing Twitter. They are competing with Twitter. So I think a good strategy for Web3 native social applications is to not directly compete with Twitter, but to find some niche markets and go to market, find the product market fit outside of the content flywheel that Twitter has already been able to amass over the years. So what we're doing at Town Square, for example, is we are finding sort of a niche market outside of the pure content creation model on Twitter, whereas we're providing a marketplace of not just text content, but like financial content, where we are embedding all of these like features, not just for like that the users would be able to read, but directly interact with on the wallet level, right? Exactly how that works, you guys will be able to see it in person once the MVP is live. And you could fail, you could go really well, but we plan to iterate very fast based on the immediate user feedback. But I think the broad stroke of things, and I've talked to Aptos Labs, Avery about this as well, is not necessarily to compete with them, but to find a niche market where you are able to identify product market fit with the, just the initial small group of users and then expand from there while making sure that you are able to make some revenue in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's an important point to make as well of how these are actually monetizing and how sustainable that is. I'm curious. So Frentech definitely has a lot of positive statistics. I think total protocol fees. I'm looking at June. They've collected about 12 million, close to 13 million in protocol fees, and have about 300 million in inflows. And a lot of that, I think the argument is made that it's speculative on these crypto influencers having valuable information, I guess, or being able to access them, because each like some of the top ones like Kobe and others are like several ETH. So it's kind of seems to me like very speculative. I'm not sure what they're posting in there, but I don't know if access to them is worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. But it is interesting that it is at least short term bringing in this value, and we'll see how sustainable it is. But yeah, kind of curious to hear from you all the business models that you think would be sustainable here. Maybe share a little bit about your own business models and what other ones could be.
Yeah, sure. I'll just go ahead. Yeah, great question. I think Frentech's obviously a really interesting model, which many people obviously has a bunch of forks now and copies, as there always is. I think essentially Frentech does a lot of good to empower the current, you could say the current audience, which is within crypto. But I think the biggest issue is that most people have found, especially in the bear market, that this current audience or this current, however 100, 200, 300,000 people that are in crypto actively is actually really, really small. And actually the end game is definitely to go way beyond, people, your people who are currently using crypto on a day-to-day basis. The aim is that your sister, my mum, someone's auntie who's never ever gone anywhere near crypto will obviously start using products or apps that has transcended the space and gone now beyond kind of like just being a crypto or blockchain company. So really, that kind of goes in line with our focus and our mission. We have added a lot of social tools which we continue to build out, but it's all focused across making it as simple as possible, jargon free as possible, making it so it's kind of like, seamless, that people can't really even tell that they are going into a social experience, because I think sometimes where you put too much pressure on, okay, this is an alternative to X or this is an alternative to Instagram, people will inadvertently start comparing it. Oh, this platform hasn't got 300 million users like Instagram has, so or this hasn't got all of my followers, and people will actually start looking at those factors rather than actually the benefits of that new platform. So for us, what we're really focusing on, obviously, we're not a social first platform. It's part of our entire ecosystem, but it's really important through live chats and through DMs and through the way that we'll be building out the content clubs is to actually offer, like I believe Torum or Town Square said it, an experience that's different. That's what's really important, but actually, let's be honest, a scalable experience, an experience that won't be used by only 150 people in the space. And there's all too many protocols at the moment that is actually built for that. It's just built for a very small group of people, which ultimately buys and sells from each other and talks to each other on a day-to-day basis. CT, which obviously for anyone who's not aware, crypto Twitter, is actually really small. There's actually not that many people who's in the space, but it seems like there always is because everyone talks every day. So it's really important that we kind of go beyond that and kind of focus on growing it to, the 10, 20, 50, 100 million user count. To do that, it means we just need to go beyond crypto. We need to make it easy. And I have to say, for what it's worth, as much as I just said Friendtech is for crypto natives, they did make it really simple to actually, use the app outside of needing to use MetaMask or needing to, on a day-to-day basis, to sign in and to ultimately use the app. They made it very, very seamless in that sense. And I think that's a lot that people and companies can kind of learn from over the next couple of weeks and obviously into the next potential run next year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Town Square, I see you have your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, just really want to echo what Script was saying about offering the like really frictionless user onboarding experience that Friendtech kind of offered, because like when it comes to like mobile applications or like just social applications in general, if you want to onboard users, and then you like everyone is now by this point is familiar with the talking point about when you want to onboard non-Web3 natives to your app, something definitely to avoid is requiring the users to have to deal with your private keys, right? So everyone has sort of agreed on that now. Whereas 2 years ago, that was still like a main point of discussion in terms of like, what's the kind of like frictionless onboarding UI UX that we want to do, right? So we are making progress, right? Although very slowly. So at this point, I think really in terms of offering that seamless onboarding experience so that we can onboard more users that are not familiar with, private keys or do not want to deal with private keys, is sort of to have like social logins, Magic Link, Particle Network, or like Web3 auth, like for these for non-Web3 users, and for Web3 users also, you would want to make sure that when you are onboarding them to a social network app, the best thing to do is not requiring them to create another wallet, but to capitalizing on their existing wallet where they already have assets and data history on chain, etc. Right? So I think this is where like making sure that the mobile infrastructure is there, making sure the wallet adaptive infrastructure is mobile ready is very important. Like Solana released their like mobile React Native like mobile deep link last year, and Aptos is building its own like mobile deep link now, because most deep links at the moment are only native, right? They are not React Native, so they are not like mobile compatible. So in terms of like getting the infrastructure ready for these like mass adoptable mobile application to exist, I think is something that's not a foregone conclusion yet. It's still being worked on. So I think I was actually engaged in this like mobile deep link topic a lot with the Pontem team, because we wanted to integrate their like liquid swap widget very badly, but it's only available on the web view browser. So so with the mobile deep link, React Native deep link, users on applications on others like social networks will be able to access these like DEX swap features or whatever other trading features very seamlessly without having to hop between the app and the web view browser. So this kind of like infrastructure is really critical to make sure that whatever applications we're building in Web3 at least have the Web2 level, at least the bare minimum Web2 level UI user experience. Otherwise, if the infrastructure is not even there or the ecosystem doesn't emphasize or value that infrastructure, then I think that ecosystem would have very little hope in terms of onboarding like non-Web3 users. Like it's just like a cold-blooded fact that all ecosystems have to deal with if they ever want to offer that frictionless experience to onboard non-Web3 natives.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there that a lot of infrastructure still needs to be built out, specifically as you were mentioning around mobile, and it's kind of hard to know where that responsibility falls on, right? Is it the large foundations? Is it the application developers? And to your point, it's going to be hard to onboard folks, especially on something like social, if some of that Web2 infrastructure or connections there, and then the user experience has a ton of friction points. But yeah, I'm wondering, as a follow up to this, what would be, kind of like a killer app per se that you think would enable folks to, easily start using these? Like, is it really, uh, sign on without having to store your private key, or just kind of curious to hear like what is the biggest friction point, and what are people looking for when using social apps that currently X and Facebook don't provide. Maybe throw this to Torum.
Sorry, Pontem. I'm a little bit laggy here. What was your question again?
Yeah, what is currently missing from the Web3 social apps that make it difficult to onboard people? Like what if you have a magic wand, could wave it? What solution do you think would enable just millions of people to start using these applications?
I see. Okay. I think from my perspective, the missing puzzle here right now is a new way to connect and interact with people. Because let's be honest here. With Web2 social networks, okay, their emergence has brought a great deal of how we connect with people, and how we interact with people. In fact, starting from the point where we are able to connect with people online, talk with people online, from text-based to image-based content, and then from image to video, from video to short video. So essentially, what we are seeing here is the transformation and progression of Web2 social networks have moved over the past 10 years. And with what Web3 social networks here need to provide is basically a new way, offering a new way for Web3 or maybe Web2 people to connect. Because if there is no difference in the innovation, okay, if there's no difference in how we can connect people with Web3 social apps, and maybe how we help creators interact with their followers, then there's essentially no difference between Web3 social app and also a Web2 social app. Um, uh, think about it this way: the user experience, okay, in terms of onboarding, using it, okay, retention, they are far more better in Web2. Web2 social networks dominate that user experience from A to Z. So with Web3 here, we need to offer something unique, distinct, that's truly innovative, and at the same time resonating with our offerings, our value propositions that we can provide to the end users. If we don't have that, then I don't think there's going to be any sort of mass migration from Web 2 to Web 3 because there's just no difference. I mean, there's nothing much. Essentially, there's no value. If you think about it, there's no value for people to come and use Web3 social app. I think that is the main reason. There's a very big issue with Web3 social app right now, and I think even worse when we go deeper into the concept of social fi. So social fi is combining social with monetary incentive, isn't it? So it's basically a model where we provide users or people with the ability to transform their social interactions into a sort of economic activities. I think Binance 2 months ago or 1 month ago, they wrote about an article and they mentioned this as well, similar things. But the thing is, when you combine incentive with social interactions, okay, that leads people, the users, to the issue where they are their interest, their motivation on social fi apps, it is skewed, it is turned away from socializing to getting reward. So are we building social fi apps so people can get reward or social? I think that's the main questions, the main issue that plagues the social fi industry. So most of us, I think, because of my personal experience with starting Web3 social for the past 5 years, so I understand this on a very, how to say, very clear view. When we provide, what we want to initially want to do is we provide this incentive for users to come, to attract them come, okay, and then we want to use this time frame where they come to build that network up, okay. Now it sounds good in paper, but if we delve deeper, it isn't the case because people are essentially coming to social fi apps, Web3 social apps, for the incentive, for the tokens. And when this incentive, when this motivation, the user's motivation, it gets shifted to this, then no one is really interested in socializing anymore. And when no one is actually authentically connecting and engaging with one another, that leads back to the same issue with threads. We got a very weak network effect on our platform. And what it happens is as time goes on, the network crumbles pieces by pieces. That's the upside and also the downside of network effect. People always thought that network effect is something great. You are building a very sticky kind of model incentive where people won't leave and continue to engage with one another. But that isn't necessarily the case when it comes to social fi apps because right now we are at the very early stage of social fi, and most of the social fi apps up to this day, we have no product market fit. I'm gonna be honest with Torrent as well. Even though we have more than 200,000 users, we still do not achieve that level of product market fit as we hope and see, and as we hope and seen on Web2 social networks, because of these misalignments of financial incentive with social interactions that actually led many social apps to fail and crumble. So I think that's the main issue that social app has to deal with, because when we say onboarding, right, um Web2 social network definitely the Web2 social way of onboarding people is definitely way better than Web3. We can't ask someone that is accustomed to Web2 social networks to try and create a wallet and use it and then sign up onto our platform. We do provide that feature on Torum, and I definitely see that in lots of the social apps, Web3 social apps right now. But that um, that is going to shift and basically challenging the user tendency to when it comes to getting used to an app. So that is a different kind of game that requires a lot of time, effort, and resources to change. So I personally feel that onboarding is not really an issue. I do think that social file apps should actually provide both ways for onboarding people. We should provide the traditional, conventional Web2 approach of using maybe email or password, and also at the same time we offer this innovative Web3 login sign up method like the MetaMask wallet sign up thing. So by having this sort of ability that is catered for Web2 and Web3 people, it opens up doors and it doesn't limit us to only one way and then forsake another one. We are actually opening the door to both sides of the people. And I think that is the approach that is more friendly to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there that you know, SocialFi and I think other industries like gaming have this issue of retention for users. Like a lot of users come in and are financially motivated to claim rewards or to claim airdrops, but then the game or the application, social application, isn't enticing enough for them to stay and continue using it when that financial incentive isn't there anymore. Although I would argue that in traditional tech applications, there's also financial incentives for people to start using apps. Like Uber gave out a lot of free rides, for example. And you know, it's a function, I think, of how much value the product is bringing, and if it's, you know, whether it's a crypto product or not, you know, is a little bit more relevant. Just because, you know, you want to provide a function that is useful for people, and if you're doing that, then, you know, people should continue using your app, whether they're paying with crypto or not. You know, doesn't matter in my opinion. But yeah, kind of, you know, kind of curious to hear what others think about this topic, and yeah, we'll close it there after, just because we're running on time. But yeah, kind of curious to hear from Script or Town what y'all think about this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we're talking about the topic you just asked before, right? Just to clarify.
Yeah, so you know, onboarding, what are the issues, and then Torin brought a
Yeah.
good point that you know, there's a underlying issue with crypto and apps that, you know, people come in for the rewards, but then they don't stay.
Yeah, I think with a lot of the things that is being analyzed at the moment is kind of like how easy or hard is it to work out a construct between how do I use this platform every day without actually needing to, you know, sign in or sign up to apps that I don't understand. And I think you know, at the moment we have a bunch of different apps that we obviously all use, which is like wallets or ways to sign in our own way. But in reality, in Web2, that is kind of like not the case. You don't need to understand a new wallet. You don't need to understand a new way of kind of like essentially getting into your profile and actually chatting for the first time. It's very simple. You know, it's Google. It's Google. It's sign in through X. It's sign in through Instagram, Facebook, whichever. So I think we basically, you know, Web3 in general needs to kind of like, I don't know, jump on the coattails of the Web2 social audience, which is like over 3 billion people, and ultimately utilize the apps that already exist that people have signed in to use that as a sign-in method. For what we do, for example, is if someone wants to sign up or sign in, they don't have to use MetaMask, they don't have to use Temple Wallet, they don't have to use Trust Wallet to sign in. They can sign in and sign up through Google or through one of their social accounts. And actually, they can get rewarded still on their profile the same way that everyone else can. They can create an account, they can watch TV on different platforms. But it's only actually then when they want to change those points to tokens that they ultimately have to then go through the process of going on chain, and that is making it much more seamless, because by then the user will be sticky. They would be actually more, of course, used to the platform. They probably would understand a little bit more about crypto because they would have learned more because they're now part of the process. And we feel that way round is a little bit more less offensive, so to speak, less aggressive than the other way, which is kind of like 20 different pop-ups or 20 different things they have to learn before they even can create an account. So that's kind of like what I feel the onboarding process is really important to do. Make it so you go onto the website and within 5 to 10 seconds you're a user. And if it takes anything longer than, I think, I think it was Snapchat, I can't remember who mentioned it, one of the CEOs, that anything more than like 16 seconds from when they load the site to becoming a user, if it's more complicated, if there's too many questions, asking your name, date of birth, if it's too many questions beyond 16 seconds, you've lost a huge percentage of users or potential users. So for us, it was really important to make it 1 click, 2 clicks maximum, and to continue that, as they grow. So obviously, super interested to see how that develops, and obviously, hopefully, adoption is going to grow where that isn't so much of a necessity. But I think for now, it's important to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense, and definitely agree with using the existing social apps to onboard folks. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. These social graphs exist. Let's give people features that they want to use that are crypto native that can just plug into the existing social graphs of these apps. And I think crypto, back to the one of the first questions or conversation topics, was it can be a link that ties everything together, right? You can have one identity that can cut across all these different social networks, because there's no there doesn't need to be one central database across these that connects them. You can do it separately, and I think a lot of benefits will come from this. I see we're running short on time, so thank you all the speakers for joining us. If you have any final thoughts, parting thoughts, please share them now. Also, let people know where they can find you, where they should follow. And with that, we'll wrap it up.
Cool. No problem, guys. So it was great seeing you. Just want to wrap up by saying thanks to everyone who's joined, and be sure to check us out on Script TV, and be sure to follow the great guys like Torem and Town Square, who's really helping shape the next phase of social. So yeah, super excited, guys. Look forward to talking again in the next couple of weeks or months.
Awesome, thank you. Town Square, where can folks find you, and any parting thoughts?
So if you guys want to find us, you follow Pontem first. So through Pontem, then you can find us. But really appreciate what Pontem is doing with this sort of new initiative. Just like because Pontem has historically on Aptos been a great content producer. Previously, like with DeFi, and now into social. So a really like a contributing force in the Aptos ecosystem. On both DeFi and social. And I really appreciate all the other speakers from Script Network and Torrent. If you guys just go to our Twitter account and to our website, you'll be able to sign up for our waitlist. So there will be a few perks coming with your waitlist sign up. That first and foremost being like a referral code that you'll be able to get to our alpha MVP release for all of the alpha testers. And there will be in-app perks that you'll be able to access that later users wouldn't have access to at all. So it's kind of like a new experiment that we're doing. So our thesis is essentially like, build, iterate, fail fast, and iterate again. So there's going to be a lot of more stuff coming down the line over the next 2 months before we officially launch in December. We actually had a kind of like a interesting development with the App Store Singapore Hackathon that we're going to make an announcement about most likely in the next week, in the upcoming week. So yeah, stay tuned to our Twitter account, and yeah, don't forget to sign up on our waitlist.
Awesome. Yeah, excited for mainnet deployment of Town Square and what that's going to look like, and happy to have you all here and for us to branch out from DeFi into other use cases and explore all these. So great to have everyone here. I see Torum unfortunately is having issues as speaker, so I believe their site is torum.com. Go check them out and follow all the speakers, and thank you all for joining, and see you again soon. Bye everyone.